Good day, everyone. Welcome to the day two of the Africa Cybersecurity Festival. And this is another wonderful session, which will touch on the collaborative approaches to strengthening the cybersecurity ecosystem in Africa. And we have an amazing panelist that will be doing justice to this topic. And we have Anna Kolat, who is the SVP of in KnowBe4 Africa. Hi, Anna.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for joining in. And we have Karim from Tanzania, who is the CEO of Hack IT Consultancy. Hi, Karim.
Hi, everybody. Happy to be here.
Yeah, thanks. And then we have Professor Boniface Alese, who is a professor of the Federal University of Technology, Akure, Nigeria. Hi, Professor.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon. How's
Yeah,
everyone? Nice to be here.
we're doing well. Thank you for accepting to speak. We have Emmanuella Darkwah, who is representing Cybersecurity Authority in Ghana. Hi, Emmanuella. Hope you're fine.
Yes, I don't know. I'm having some challenges. If it gets bad, I may put off my camera so that I'm able to be clearer, but we'll see how it goes.
All right, no problem. You're welcome, Emmanuella. It's fine. So recently we see a lot of digital development, especially from the African continent, and see the internet penetration moving up very rapidly. We see a lot of critical network national infrastructure that have been erupted in different countries, and hence there's a very, very important need of strengthening the cybersecurity ecosystem in Africa, and also we see cybercrime. We have recent report from Interpol that gives an overview of what is happening in Africa in terms of cybercrime, and it's very important to have this kind of conversations and around these topics so we can see how best that we can actually protect the citizens of the Africa, and also how we can strengthen the ecosystem in its entirety. So I'll be starting with Anna Collard, and just to give a brief of the role of private sector businesses and how they are trying to protect Africans, and what is the role of businesses in Africa to strengthening the ecosystem of cybersecurity.
Yeah, thank you. So I think first of all, the private sector is one of the areas that is most affected, right? So it's in their best interest to tackle the problem. And when I say problem, it's really something that we have to put in the middle. It's not something that we can solve as one industry or one sector by ourselves. So we have to work together as an ecosystem. We can't just sit there as a private sector looking at government saying, oh, you need to solve this issue. It's something that we need to put in the middle and work together on. So what the private sector, I think, can do a lot, particularly if you look at industries such as banking, financial services industries that have made a lot of good strides in terms of cybersecurity maturity. I mean, the banking sector, particularly, by the way, in Kenya and South Africa, we do these security culture surveys every year across thousands of the end users of our customers. And those sectors have been particularly high in terms of their security culture maturity. So we, in terms of the private sector and other industries, can learn from those sectors. So can the government, right? And I know that these conversations are happening. So when we talk about private-public collaboration efforts, then learning from industries that have traditionally been more mature in protecting their assets, like the banks or the financial services industry, we can learn from each other and have these conversations to see how we can work together by solving the problem that affects all of us. If I say all of us, it's private sector as well as society at large. So we need to work on it together.
All right. Thank you very much, Anakola, for that wonderful response. And I agree with you in terms of having to work together within all, different sectors so we can, make this work in terms of strengthening the ecosystem in its entirety. And that leads me to asking Emmanuella from the Cybersecurity Authority in Ghana, what is the role of your agency in trying to, protect our citizens as well as, the African citizens by extension?
All right, thank you very much. That's a very extremely broad question. Because when you are looking at the protection of citizens, you are coming from multiple aspects. You're coming from awareness creation, you're coming from legislation, you're coming from regulatory activities. And it's just, I think that is one of the things that can be challenging in terms of where to start when you're addressing some of these issues. Do you start with awareness creation? Because for Ghana, for example, we realized that there was a very human element to cybersecurity on the African continent in terms of people, unfortunately, not having enough education on how they can protect themselves from some of these activities. In as much as there are perpetrators online, the human factor and our education can play a significant difference in how we are affected or how we are targeted, right? So awareness creation was a very major thing for us. So we started our national awareness campaign under the CIFA Digital Ghana program as early as 2018 to try and talk to teachers, businesses, schools, government, as many stakeholders as possible to ensure that they even have a cybersecurity culture. Because if we are putting legislation and regulating and putting all these measures in place and people are still clicking links that, for example, are making the organizations acceptable to these crimes, then it will be quite futile, isn't it? So cybersecurity awareness was our major activity before legislation and all these other elements came in. So the two recent activities, in addition to cybersecurity awareness, was now putting in place legislation, policy and strategy, and passing our Cybersecurity Act to ensure that we have a legal backing to some of the cybersecurity activities we do. So we passed the Act in 2020, Act 1038, and then we are also very close to passing our revised policy and strategy. And now the recent measure is regulating the cybersecurity service providers. So we have in place a licensing and accreditation process, which is second to Singapore currently, to understand the kind of people in our system who are even providing services to government, to businesses. If someone just comes to me and says, oh, I'm a cybersecurity agency and I can put in place these measures, do you even have the proof that they are coming with an authentic business and they're actually doing things that will work for your organization, or they are actually going to be your downfall? So we are putting in place measures to license and accredit the kind of cybersecurity individuals, service providers, to ensure that even governments, when government agencies are going out for these cybersecurity service providers, they have verification that they are indeed authentic. And this is for also the small private business who wants to protect their cybersecurity architecture. Once you've been verified by the CSA, we know that we've gone through the process of looking through their qualifications and accreditation to ensure that they are basically not harming you. So that's just a brief summary of some of the work we've been doing.
All right, that's so amazing to know, and really, I must commend your agency for a great work you've been doing. No wonder we have Ghana as one of the leading agency in the region, and we have we have some conferences that have been held in Ghana due to the robust cybersecurity measures that your work that your agency has been providing. And for the licensing, we can see that the Nigerian governments are trying to follow suit in terms of providing licenses to these professionals, because it's a very key element in knowing who are providing these services to the people, because that would be very easy to protect people. So you also talk about the educational part of it in terms of providing awareness and all, which is also very key. And which brings me to Professor Alese.
Yeah, thank you very much. When you talk of the role of academic institution like a university, you will discover that when you talk of cybersecurity, the critical mass of those involved, they are within the age bracket of academic institution. That is, when you talk of people between the age of maybe 16 to 30 to 35, those are the people involved either in cybersecurity, majorly, or even cybercrime on the other way around. And that is why it's very important that nowadays, when you have the progress in terms of IT, in terms of, take for instance, in this era of 4IR, where everything is moving towards digitalization, and you discover that the major challenge has been the issue of cybersecurity. And that is why universities in Nigeria, as far back as about 5-6 years ago, we came together, those of us who are professionals in cybersecurity. We came together to really push forward to make cybersecurity a course of study in Nigeria. And that's how it started in around 2017, 2018, whereby now students, the young ones, can now have a focused degree in cybersecurity. And when you have that, apart from all this professional certification, it gives them a formal training in cybersecurity. And when you talk of awareness that Alese has spoken about, awareness should actually start from the universities, because in fact, we are even pushing forward that just like you have the GST courses in the university, we are pushing for a case in such a way that any student who enters the university will have to take a course in cybersecurity, because when you look at what is happening today, cyber awareness is very, very important. It's not something that should be limited even to those in IT. It's not something that should be limited to people in cybersecurity. It's somebody, irrespective of your course of study, irrespective of your discipline, it's something that everybody, irrespective of your discipline or your level, it's something that everybody needs to be aware of. Though Africa is the most, when you look at it, the statistic, the exposure index, Africa is the most exposed. But what we are not feeling it as other countries is that most of our infrastructures are not properly leveraged on IT. If our infrastructures are leveraged on IT like other advanced countries, you will see that the kind of cyber attack will suffer will be more than even the European countries. So that is why before it happens, we need to be prepared. And universities, we are training the young minds, both in terms of research, both in terms of training to prepare for cybersecurity.
Right, thank you very much, sir. That's very insightful to see, especially the age bracket, right? And the work that you're doing in trying to ensure that this is a cause that is dedicated in these tertiary institutions, right? That would go a long way in trying to see that we are protected. And I will go to Kharim now. Kharim, what do you think is actually the role of consulting firms like yours in trying to support or foster the the collaborative measures in strengthening the ecosystem in general?
Yeah, for us in the consultation industry, there are a lot of things that we do in order to foster the collaboration activities. So one of them will be in the area of training and capacity building. So this will be, for example, setting up CDF challenges. We know a lot of people in the cybersecurity industry or who are trying to venture in this industry. That's where they can learn and foster and build their skills. So that's one area that us in the consultation industry, what we try to do. And then there's the area of trying to facilitate partnerships. So that's in the area of if it's the government institution, the private sectors, it doesn't matter what industry you're in, we are trying to facilitate the relationships and partnerships that are going to be fruitful in the long run. So, for example, that's going to be in the areas of addressing the common cybersecurity problems that we all tend to face, like the awareness that has been mentioned, how to combat ransomwares and other type of attacks. So that's another area where we try to foster and build up on. Another area is on building up information sharing platforms. So, for example, I myself and my organization and my team, we have a platform where we share a lot of information relating to cybersecurity, general awareness, even on YouTube. Even currently, right now, we are having a bootcamp that is running. And a lot of people from different parts of the world have managed to register, especially in Africa, because that's the main focus. So as you can see, there's a lot of things that us in the consultation industry we are trying to do in order to help achieve a cyber-aware country and nations at large. And apart from that, there's also helping in the areas of policies and compliance. So that is in the perspective of trying to be an advocate to produce good cybersecurity policies, which are going to help in cultivating the, let me say, experts in local organizations, in local countries.
Thank you very much, Kharim. It's good to know. And you mentioned a very important note, which is the area of capacity building. I really cannot stress the very importance of that point. Thank you very much for all you do for the African cybersecurity community. So I want to come back to Anna. Anna, how do you think businesses like KnowBe4 can actually support smaller businesses in Africa to be able to be resilient, and how they can prevent cybercrime to their businesses? Because if you look at it, it will affect the economic status of whatever country, so it's important. So we want to hear your thoughts on that.
KnowBe4 obviously being an American company, they're in it to make money, so they're selling content. Let's just call it as it is. But we do have some free sort of tools available on our website. We always offer free awareness content during October Awareness Month. And something that I feel quite strongly about is, as larger organizations, whether those are local African organizations or American companies that come onto the continent, it goes beyond just selling a product. It actually comes with a responsibility to your customers, to the consumers or the citizens. So we try and really involved as much as possible in public awareness. I mean, you probably, some of you might have might get sick of my face because I constantly talk to our local radio or TV stations about whatever topic is going on. We talk a lot to the media about sort of in mainstream media, really to the end consumer level about the latest scams and things that people should be aware of, because we don't have a national cybersecurity awareness drive like Ghana does, for example. So and I know that a lot of the customers that we're dealing with, or the organizations like the big banks and the insurance companies, they all have that responsibility of training not just their internal employees or staff, but their consumers and their customers as well, which is quite a challenge, because you can do much more if you have control over your audience, let's call it that. Like I can send simulated phishing attacks to my employees. I can discipline them if they don't follow the policy. I can issue a policy, but I can't necessarily do that to my consumers or my customers, right? Like I can't send phishing simulations to the customers. They won't like it. So there are challenges with that, but still, I think any bigger organization that deals either with consumers or with B2B, like with smaller companies, we have a responsibility to offer resources to keep them, to educate them about the latest scams. I mean, particularly if I think about business email compromise, that's quite rampant in the legal profession and anywhere when you buy a house, for example. So the players involved there have to educate themselves about these latest scams. And the bigger organizations, let's face it, have bigger budgets. They have access to resources that the SMEs maybe don't have. So it's sort of it's a bit of an organic kind of self-education or self-awareness that is happening. And I come back to the responsibility beyond just selling a product. In our case, we also have to help the community with capacity building. I mean, we get involved in like a local security academy.
Yeah, thank you very much, Anna, for that. And it's important, just like you note, that businesses also support some businesses, just like KnowBe4 do, in terms of providing some free resources to people who can't necessarily not afford that. So Kharim, in your experience, right? So what do you think are the key challenges and opportunities for private sector engagement in, cybersecurity initiatives in Africa? And how do you think these challenges can be addressed through collaboration?
Okay, thank you very much. The question is very comprehensive, but some of the key challenges that we generally in Africa that we are facing is, number one, we have limited resources, especially, for example, if we look at the SMEs, they don't have the budget nor the capacity to invest in cybersecurity in general. So in that area, we can see that there are limited resources in Africa to deal with cybersecurity and cyber criminals at large. Another challenge that we are facing is shortage of skills. Initially, I used to have, quite a little bit of hesitations when people used to say that there's a shortage of skills. But once I started to get into the consultation industry is when I realized, like, yeah, this issue is really a big issue, especially in Africa, and not only Africa anyway, but worldwide. So we have that also here in Africa. And then there's also in the area of regulatory complexity. So there are a lot of complex regulations that are put into place. That's also another challenge, which is also sometimes can make the country be dormant in terms of cybersecurity maturity. So that's also another issue. And then finally, another issue is the cyber threats generally in Africa. So if you look at one of the most common cyber threats that I think majority of organizations are facing is ransomware. So that's a huge, as in a big challenge that we are facing as Africans. And also another problem is how to combat them and how to proactively protect ourselves. Now, when we come to opportunities, well, there's a lot of opportunities in Africa, especially when it comes to the cybersecurity industry. So one big opportunity is the opportunity of innovation and also technological adaptation. So let's look at the example of right now we have things like AI, which is very, very well spoken out in majority of the countries worldwide. So that's one area now where cybersecurity comes in, is how can we use AI in order to protect our digital assets? So that's one area of opportunity here in Africa. Another opportunity is in the capacity building space and also training. So that's where, like, for example, my organization and my community in general, plus UNODC, we are also doing such types of capacity building. How we're addressing these challenges, one of the major way is in the area of capacity building and training and awareness in general. So that's one area where for us in the consultation industry, we'll tend to get into the social medias, provide awareness, which is going to reach a lot of people in the world, worldwide, and not only Africa. We also try to help in the incident response and crisis management. So really that's, for example, the ransomware example that I gave. If an organization is attacked, rather, we come in, try to help and mitigate that risk from even causing more damages, and how they can protect themselves in future attacks.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Kharim. I really love the points where you talk about innovation, where you also talk about information sharing and collaborative measures also that different stakeholders can in trying to strengthen the capacity of the different countries in Africa. So I want to ask Emmanuella, how do you think government agencies in different countries can actually work together in trying to see that we foster intelligence sharing, best practices, resources. What works in Ghana can also work for Nigeria, and what's this kind of collaborative effort? How do you think different countries can actually work to combat cybercrime in the region?
That's actually a really good question, and I think it's usually my favorite question, because I really got to see how that works, noting that we started as a center before transitioning into an authority. And to this end, I really have to say, I really commend the Director General, Dr. Albert Nkripo-Siakon, who was supposed to be here but couldn't be here due to schedule and conflict, and the Minister for Communication for just being very visionary in terms of how we handle our collaborative approaches. So at that time, how they led this collaborative engagement in the country was to form a National Cybersecurity Technical Working Group and a National Cybersecurity Interministerial Advisory Council. So the technical working group was basically having different agencies who brought down cybersecurity to meet from time to time to have the understanding that basically as a regulatory body, the job is to work with all other agencies whose mandates fall on cybersecurity. you would find in a lot of countries that cybersecurity can be within national security, it can be within your National Signals Bureau, it can be under the Foreign Ministry because it can be a foreign policy issue, it can be in the Office of the Presidency. It basically can be in so many divisions. And I think that is where some countries were struggling in terms of how do we streamline our cybersecurity activities. So once our president, for example, designated the Ministry of Communication that, hey, you are the institution in charge of bringing everyone together, regulating everyone. I think the next step for us was to ensure that in regulating cybersecurity in the country, we make everyone understand that it's still a hand-in-hand process. It's not we sitting somewhere forming policies and forming legislation and then passing it on to you to then implement. But then how do we work on the documents? We had multiple review processes with all these agencies. We had input with even our private sector, with our stakeholders to child online protection. We work with other agencies who are already working in this space. Say, hey, what are the gaps? How do these legislations address some of these gaps? We don't want a legislation that is passed for the sake of having a legislation that is passed, but actually having a working document that can be useful to those on the ground, those who are in the implementing spaces, to ensure that it is a useful tool. It is a tool they can reference and use for their work. So in that regard, I think forming the technical working group and the ministerial advisory council that was made up of the different sector heads who are the ministers who had worked in cybersecurity, the national security minister, the foreign affairs minister, so that everyone can basically come on board. And that what that did was also ensuring that when the draft policy or the draft act gets to parliament, it doesn't look like a surprise document. We've all been working on this. This is the final outcome of the document. So that was very useful. And then that then fed into how we engage with other agencies, because I think in your country, if you are well organized and you streamline the activities, then you are able to work with another agency. For an example, when the foreign ministry is contacted in terms of cybersecurity activities, they know straight away to send it to the Cybersecurity Authority. When you have current negotiation processes like the UN processes, the ad hoc processes, the foreign affairs would be the diplomatic representation on the negotiation process, but the CSA is the technical representation. Then we work together to negotiate the outcome. We are not diplomats, they are not technical agencies, but we are able to work together so well to ensure that we negotiate together. So I think just streamlining that and then now sending what we've done internally outside makes it easier for us to then work with other countries. So even with signing MOUs, we currently have MOUs with Rwanda, with Mozambique, in terms of just looking at how what has worked here, what has worked there can be learned. Because one of these issues is also that a lot of countries in the global south and in Africa tend to look to very advanced countries for some of the methods that they've put in place. But it's also looking at us as Africans and say, hey, something has worked here. How did it work in your local context? What did that look like? How difficult was that? Can we work to translate that into our local context as well? Some countries, like for example, Togo, has established a cybersecurity fund. What does that look like? Some other countries have been able to set up a national cybersecurity agency with a working national set. How did they achieve that? How can you learn little bits and pieces from every country to ensure that the solutions that we are putting in place are actually useful for our local context? For most countries, for example, the kind of cyber crimes they deal with are not the kind of cyber crimes we deal with. If a Ghanaian, for example, has an issue with maybe a mobile money scam and loses, let's say, 200 CDs, which would be less than maybe $2, yes, which may be less than $2 or $20 or something like that. If they lose something like that, for that person, that could be their daily bread because of how people in our communities live very hand to mouth and look forward to daily sales. So something like that is so important for them. So how do we ensure that we are addressing cybersecurity in a way that is actually useful to people in our local context? Not thinking things like ransomware and AI and all these conversations are super important, but mobile money fraud, romance scams are equally as important. The same priority you give to a mobile money scam is the same priority you have to give to a ransomware attack. So those are the kind of conversations we try to have.
Wow, this is actually mind-blowing. I had to pick up my notes and start writing. Thank you so very much, Ella, for that. And it's very important to learn from local content, right? Local context, and look horizontally and vertically across different stakeholders, and also, work with other agencies in your country to be able to implement this. So I hope other African country leaders are listening to this, and please, I know Ghana is open to for collaboration with whatever country that are willing to, and we hope we have a more resilient cybersecurity continent with this. So my last question is actually to Professor Boniface. Professor, are you here? All right, so I just asked you.
I'm here. I can hear you. I can hear you. All right.
So all this conversation is actually centered around research as well as innovation, right? And I want to believe one of the most important institutions that deal with research is actually the educational institution, right? And we have young people who have bright minds and ideas that can be able to ensure that we have a working, very important research and solutions. So I just want to ask, what do you think we can do in terms of enabling research, like from the educational institutions to innovative solutions that can be beneficial to the African people?
Yeah, thank you very much. Just like I mentioned when we started, when you look at cybersecurity, just like IT itself, is very dynamic. The problems, the challenges of yesterday are different from challenges of today. And the challenges of today will be different from challenges of tomorrow. Because when you look at trends in cybersecurity or cybercrime, they are evolving every day with new technology, with new innovations, and that underscores the essence of research. And just like you have mentioned, when you talk of research, there has to be collaboration between industry and universities, collaboration across even the continent. Let me give you an example. Some years ago, few years ago, maybe about 5 years ago, I was on sabbatical. Coincidentally, the last speaker is from Ghana. I was on sabbatical in Ghana in one of the universities there. I'm sure she will know University of Mines and Technology. And there, it was when I was there, I actually went for sabbatical in the Department of Computer Science, one in cybersecurity. From there, I was able to train 2 of their staff to PhD level. I supervised 2 PhD level for PhD students for cybersecurity, and the 2 of them are finished. And I can tell you today, in that university, they have started a degree course in cybersecurity. That's University of Mines and Technology, Ghana. You can find out. What does this mean? It means that across Nigeria, across African continent, we can have a collaborative movement on research in cybersecurity and between industries, because industries, they deal with the daily problems. And when they bring the problems, the challenges to the university, it is for us to use the technical know-how. It is for us to use the scientific know-how to deal with these challenges. And even take, for instance, before we were talking of having one solution to this kind of problem or the other. Today now, we are talking of issues like zero trust cybersecurity. We're talking of cyber immune system. These are the new things coming up in such a way that you know that when we talk of cybersecurity, cybersecurity is very wide and evolving. And because it's very wide and evolving, there has to be research both at maybe even undergraduate level, because you can imagine what some of these undergraduate students can do, then taking it to postgraduate level, so that you can part of the cybersecurity landscape of the world. I want to tell you, the stage we are moving to is a stage where I said something when the first time I was speaking, that the reason why we are not feeling the serious effect, not that we are not feeling the effect, the serious effect of cybersecurity in Africa is just because our IT infrastructure, our infrastructures, critical infrastructures like water, electricity, transportation system are not fully leveraged on IT. And that's why when we talk of cybersecurity in Africa, we tend to talk about the banking industry, we talk about the defense industry. But when you look at advanced countries, you will discover that when everything is leveraged on, where everything is leveraged on cybersecurity, a single attack can bring the whole nation on a standstill. I remember what happened ago in the city of Los Angeles, just because the traffic system was hacked in the city of Los Angeles, there was a standstill for 4 days. You can see, I'm sure those of us who have been there will know how busy the city of Los Angeles was. Because the traffic system was hacked, there was a standstill for 4 days. No vehicle could move forward. So that underscored the essence of serious research in cybersecurity, not because we want to, we're not trying to, what am I trying to say? Not that we are trying to bring out maybe what others have done or to redo what others have done. Rather, we will be looking at our own peculiar situation, considering our own peculiar environment, considering our culture. You will discover that even cybersecurity, there is an aspect of culture, there is an aspect of the ethics of the society. For instance, what is a cybercrime in some countries may not be a cybercrime in some other country. So all these things, these are the areas we have to focus on. What is the ethics? Ethics in Nigeria, for instance, in some countries now, if you take somebody's software and use it, they don't consider it as a crime. But in some other countries, I mean, you can see software, it's become software piracy. So we have to sit down in Africa, go into cybersecurity research, considering our culture, considering the level of our development, considering where we are, considering where we want to get to. And it has to be collaborative between industries and universities, and not only between industries and universities, across universities. And like we are just doing, up till I talk to you, I still have a collaborative research with the university in Ghana. In Ghana, that is University of Mines and Technology. We are still doing some collaborative work in cybersecurity. Like I told you, I've been able to train 2 of their staff to PhD level there. This is how we should go, because a lot of things in the next decade, in the next century, a lot of things will be coming to Africa in terms of cybersecurity. And it is not for us to be taking technology alone, it's for us to be part of the development of technology in the field of cybersecurity, because we have a unique country. And let me tell you, if you look at what happened during the era of COVID, if we took the kind of the youth generation that we have today in the tech industry, you will discover there are people who are ready to go all the org to embrace technology. And in order for us also to be able to prepare for them and not to use the knowledge of technology negatively, we need to do a lot of research. And that is why all of us across industries, across universities, that we have to come together across Africa and really tackle the cybersecurity research and make it and bring it to a front burner and make sure that our government is involved, has the right budget for cybersecurity. Coincidentally, in Nigeria, when we were discussing the cybersecurity policy in the year 2020, they brought into universities. My university was one of it, and I was one of those people who was able to make little input to the cybersecurity policy of Nigeria from the product of research. And that is why it has to be between government, industries, and across universities. We have to do collaborative effort on cybersecurity research. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Professor, for that speech that you gave. So we see that it's very important to have a collaborative effort in trying to strengthen the security ecosystem in Africa. So rounding up now, I just want to get your final thoughts on this topic, and then so I'll start again with Anna. What are your final thoughts, ma?
Yes, first of all, I really enjoyed this conversation, and I learned a lot from all the participants. Thank you very much. And I think in final closing thoughts, like one of the things that I took notes of was, we need African solutions for African problems that can also be opportunities. And you heard me talk about this before, that I believe that by tapping into the youth that we have, which other countries don't, and combine that youth with the opportunity that is in technology, and cybersecurity is the foundation. Like none of the new emerging technology, including like critical infrastructure using technology, right, will work unless we have it adequately secured. So for me, I see a massive opportunity in equipping the youth in building capacity and educating the youth to provide services not only to African organizations but to the rest of the world, as Kharim said, right? So I see an opportunity for governments, for universities, the private sector to come together, invest more in the youth and in upskilling them and equipping them to fill that gap and finding solutions for African problems. In fact, I was thinking about the telco industry. We still do a lot with USSD technology, which if I speak to American colleagues, they have never heard of that. To them, it's like a legacy technology, but we still do a lot on it. And we have scams and social engineering using that technology. So we need to find ways around technologies that we still use, as well as opening up doors for new tech, that we use. So for me, I just see a massive opportunity. It's a challenge, but it's also a massive opportunity that we can fix with capacity building and investment in upskilling and education. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anna. Emmanuella, what's your final thoughts?
Well, I think at the end of the day, all conversations boil down to two things: ensuring that you work with multiple stakeholders, get multiple perspectives, researchers, consultants, those in industry, governments, private, NGOs, bottom up, top down, get as many consultative processes as possible, whether it's legislation, awareness, policy. It's important to ensure that you're working with as diverse of a group of individuals as possible. That's the first one. And then the second one, ensuring that whatever solutions you put in place fit to your local context. And as much as it's good to learn from other countries, first assess your environment to see whether what you're bringing on board is even possible, whether you can even implement it. And if you do implement it, those who are actually going to utilize it, is it workable for them? Are they able to use the tools that you've given them in a way that is useful for them? So I've really enjoyed this conversation, and I do hope that moving forward, a lot of African countries across board will just understand the need to work with each other, work vertically, work horizontally to ensure that we all have structures in place. Because in as much as a country can work so hard to secure their data infrastructure, if your neighboring country has a weak system, that can easily affect you as well. So we all need to work together and sort of pull each other along to build a very resilient digital ecosystem.
All right. Thank you very much, Emmanuella, for that wonderful thought. And Professor Alese, what are your closing thoughts, sir?
Thank you very much. Just like others have said, I really enjoyed this conversation. I mean, across from industry, from policy perspective. And I want to say that, sorry, just a minute. Just a second. Hello?
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Okay. Sorry. So it's just we have from industry perspective, from a university perspective, it has shown that we have serious issues in cybersecurity in Africa, and the kind of talks uplifting to this afternoon have actually shown that we are all prepared, either be it in industry, be it in government, NGO, or universities. And that is the way to go. And the need for us to secure our digital perimeter, either as an industry or university or a nation or Africa as a whole, is a task for all. And it is not something a single person can do. It is the job for all. Be you in the industry, be you in the university, be you in NGO. And the truth of the matter is that, just like the saying goes, the strength of a chain is measured by the weakest link. There is nobody that should be left out. In a company, even the messenger is as important as the CEO. Though in cybersecurity industry, we call them the whaler, I mean the CEO. But when you see a messenger, the function of a multinational organization can be brought down if an ordinary messenger is not well tutored in the area of cybersecurity awareness. And that is why we have to really focus on it. Universities will collaborate with industries. Universities will collaborate with industries. Countries will collaborate with industry, because unfortunately, cybercrime is a borderless crime. It doesn't matter where you are. And that is why we have to cooperate. By cooperating, we'll be able to secure our digital space. We'll be able to secure our digital perimeter. Once again, I want to thank all the participants. I've really enjoyed having to be on the same panel with them this afternoon. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, Professor Boniface. We also enjoy your conversation around this topic. Finally, we have Kharim. What's your closing thoughts, sir? Yeah.
Hello, I guess you unmuted me. Basically, what I wanted to say, first of all, let me start by saying that a lot of the points that have been raised by the other panel, very strong and important points. But just to force on them is number one, I think collaboration and partnerships is very important, because there we're going to be able to share information among countries, what's happening around the world, because even I, with my team in the organization, I usually tell them, don't expect everything to come from me. Also, I'll expect some of the ideas to come from you, because some of the things I'll be able to see, some of the things I would be able to see, but maybe you might be able to catch them. So you can see the importance there of sharing information among borders, because today I could know something, tomorrow I couldn't know anything. The other bit is on the aspect of awareness and trainings. I think that's very important for a lot of companies and institutions to invest more on trying to provide awareness to the general public, because cybersecurity is not just for the corporate, it's also it goes down up to the individual level. And a lot of people who get affected are the ones who are not aware. And the training is, I don't like using this word generally, but they say the weakest link to information security is usually the people. So also you need to provide the training capability, but not only just providing the training, but also enabling the employers to practice what they've been trained on. So simulations are also very important, as know before, they are very good at doing that. Apart from that, I think it's also important to sometimes look at the university level. I can tell you for a fact, I had a mentee in one time where he was at the age of, I think, 16, if I'm not mistaken, but he was very good and he knew a lot of things in relation to cybersecurity development, software development rather, and other aspect of technology. So right now he's among the top cybersecurity experts in Tanzania. So we shouldn't only focus on experts who are, who have graduated or are in the industry already. There are guys who are not in the industry, but they are good at what they're doing, especially in cybersecurity. We call them the unsung heroes. I think that's also an area I think governments and private sectors should try and venture in, to go to universities, look for talent. I think that's another important area. For example, us in Tanzania, we have several universities who are very talented. For example, recently there was a cybersecurity competition for East Africa in general, and one of the university from Tanzania, University of Dodoma, came the first. So this demonstrates that even the guys who are in the university going downwards are also capable of helping the country at large. As the professor said, that it's not a one-man job when it comes to cybersecurity. Everybody is involved, everybody is a stakeholder. So it's very important to consult and have everybody on board, or it's going to cost all of us. So I think that will be my closing remarks. And I'll just like to say thank you very much for having me here, and to share my knowledge and expertise when it comes to cybersecurity.
Thank you very much, Kharim, for that wonderful closing remark. Thank you so much, Anna. Thank you, Professor Boniface, and thank you so much, Emmanuella, for being on this wonderful conversation. Unfortunately, you're not here virtually. We have taken photograph, but it's still fine. We'll take digital photograph right now.
It can work.
Yeah.
Digital photograph.
Digital photograph, yes. So, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. All right. Thank you very much. And so that's the end. So we'll actually